afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, wherever you're coming from. Thanks a lot for joining us. I've got a new big hat to go with my big headphones. I'm fully NBA'd up and I'm ready for game week 2. And guys, I just woke up, was it yesterday morning? And I thought, we've got to do a mega stream. And I did everything I could. I went all across, I was pulling favours, I was doing back-alley deals to get an all-star cast in for game week 2, which is it's really game week 1. We get the rares, we get the limiteds out there. So I've got 3 superstars joining me today. They're all going to come on screen at once. So without any further ado, please welcome John, Laird and Gatorguy. Thanks for joining us, lads. How are we doing?
Good to see you, Quinny, and everyone else.
How are we doing?
Hold on, did you guys get paid? Quinny said like hell of a deal. I
got paid in photos.
Ooh,
I'll take
my.
Photographs are currency, gentlemen, as we all know. But yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. I've been like a kid with a new toy ever since this NBA thing came out, and I've been listening to all the content that everyone's been making, kind of, in the build up to it, as it were. And yeah, I just can't wait to get going. And I thought I reached out to John first of all because I was watching a bunch of your videos, John, obviously, and watching some of the buys you were making, and it felt like watching myself a little bit because you don't really know who any of these guys are and you're kind of relying on everyone. So I thought to balance us off, we need to get some locals. We need some guys that know a thing or two about paint and keys and baselines and posts and, that kind of stuff to help square everything up for the stream. So it should be good fun, guys. And I've got a few kind of like things laid out for it, just like talking points in case we just gibberish off into nowhere. But yeah, I don't know how to start. Well, we start with game week 1. Your commons, did you all have fun? Did we win anything of significance? Tier 1s, anyone?
I feel like rewards should be out by now, right?
I was just gonna say, hold on, is that breaking news? Rewards released?
Yeah.
You guys haven't been playing baseball regularly, or I guess you may throw lineups in, but it's like a throwback to Sorare from I can't even say a few years ago, but from a while ago when you could get rewards early and then use them in the very next game week. And so I was kind of expecting that to happen for NBA here because it's not like we're waiting for any games to finish so we can get our rewards. But my lineups were terrible, and I was excited for game week 2 just so I could actually play guys that like I chose to have as opposed to the commons that were just kind of given to me.
And then did I wreck your dreams when we found out about the cheat code?
No. Well, no.
Not fully.
Not fully, although we'll get into this cheat code because I think, Quinny, you might be in on it a little bit. John, I'm not sure if we've explained it to you, but the Sorare NBA product and the game is so different than football and baseball. And we'll go into like kind of why. But I say that while also saying that everything that we think we're going to learn from this game week probably doesn't apply to any future game week ever again. Ooh. And so we're all going to be learning this together, and there might be some bloodbath after this game.
It looks like John, did you bring a cocktail?
No, it's just like some juice, but like, fuck this. I'm already like, what is going on here? Oh, me and my little Bulls jersey looking all channy and fucking, I don't have a clue what's going on. Oh.
I've seen that, John, just before we came on. I went hunting for basketball gear, but being a wee skinny Scottish guy, there's not much basketball gear you can get away with wearing, so ended up just being a hat.
Yeah.
Hold on, real quick, before we go into the game, bonus points for John or Quinny. If you can name who's dunking on Laird's picture behind him.
I mean, well, it's the player in white that's doing the dunk.
Bonus points.
Patrick
so
Ewing.
It's a Knicks player dunking against the Bulls. Mm-hmm. So it's not
very
Michael
famous,
Jordan.
Very famous
Patrick
moment.
Ewing? Patrick Ewing?
No.
Magic Johnson.
Same time. not as good of a guess as Patrick
Was he
Ewing.
in Space Jam? Was it the other guy in Space Jam?
No.
Was it Patrick Ewing? No.
There's really no reason for anyone to know who this. I mean, they would know him, but like fans of other teams wouldn't think that this guy is important.
Unless you grew up with basketball. Like,
yeah.
So this was
1993. Were you guys even born yet?
I was born that year.
I was
Oh,
5.
yeah. See, so like
May
of course John
25th.
doesn't know.
May 25th. I was born 1 month later.
Hold on. So you could say that John Starks may have
Oh yeah.
welcomed you into the world, John.
Yeah, John Starks is the
John Starks for John. Okay, we're starting.
Maybe
We're
I was
starting.
named
I didn't even
after,
notice that.
Let's go. Oh God, I
Starks.
just don't know anything about this. I'm like so excited about the NBA product, but like I went and did what every fool did. And sorry, I'm going off on one here. Just to give my initial thoughts on NBA, where I was like, I knew there was a points cap, but I kind of thought, but I still need the big guys. So I went and bought all the big guys. And now, because it's only contender this week and not champion, I can't really enter a team.
That's
but I just
super
bought like
frustrating.
the guys that I like have heard of, or like I'm like, yeah, let's get Ja Morant, Giannis. I haven't got a Doncic, but I got a LeBron James and a Steph Curry. And then I bought like a bunch of rookies. And I'm picking. Tell me this, I have a question. I'm picking up rookies for like $1 or $2. Do some of these rookies like not go on to ever really play? And then they like, is that like a thing? Like, is there a high churn
Yes.
rate?
Like
Yeah.
the for comparison in the NBA, I might get corrected wrong in chat and things like that, but I would say even of like the top 10 picks in most drafts, Larry, what do you think? Like 3 end up probably fulfilling their promise. Another like 3 or 4 that people thought were going to be great might become role players. Some of them don't even do things, and then like towards the end of the first round, it's just a crapshoot. Like Giannis was the 15th pick in his draft.
He's
And now he's
he's just like a unicorn.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
the answer to that is nobody's like guaranteed, but you can still get some absolute diamonds at the end.
Yeah.
So should I not just buy all the ones that are like $1 and then hope that one of them becomes like a hero? No,
you could. Why not?
But like what I always hear these stories of like the first round pick like being shit, and then the guy who's picked like 60th being amazing.
Yeah.
So like, why not just pick the 60th guy and get 10 of them for a tenner and just sit on them for 2 years and hope? I know it's just a gamble though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to cross the pond for football. I mean, I still remember when like Harry Kane was first scoring goals for Spurs. They were like, "Oh, he's just an academy guy. He's not going to be anything," you know. So I mean, crazier things have happened.
For sure. I've been picking up some rookies as well with that same kind of vibe in mind, John. And it would be remiss of me to not drop out some fist bumps. We've got a bunchies in the live chat. Thanks to everyone who has joined us. Jonathan Gargi, Ryan Wilkinson, Sorare Fanatic, the real Phil D. Good to see you. Hey, my SMB. Zaki, Jorge Vargas, good to see you, my man. Channy's in the house. First Mint, Score. A lot of legends in seeing us tonight. Guys, if you found us on Twitter or whatever, there was a tweet that went out earlier. Like and retweet it for us. I didn't actually put a tweet out for it because that one was so well made with emojis and hashtags and stuff. I thought if you were going to try and support the stream tonight, you could send that one around rather than just a live in 5 like I normally do, kind of stuff. So that would be very much appreciated. And yeah, I've tried to get I've picked up a few rookies, John, with that kind of strategy in mind as well. But I've tried to get guys that were playing because I just thought, like, try and get some guys that have maybe got a few minutes and then hopefully, because I remember with MLB, I never really picked it up. But that guy, Spencer Strider or whatever, I was close to getting him quite cheap, like a week before people said he was some sort of, like game breaker guy or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn it, I wish I'd just picked up a few, because he was playing and it was just like get some easy hits, And it feels like I've maybe stumbled into that with that Mathurin guy. I managed to get one of his rares quite early on. He seems to be killing. And Jorge Vargas was saying in the live chat, there is a good class of rookies, it does feel like, in this kind of year one Sorare NBA. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we're all really speculating at this point. And it's like one thing to know how the game will play. We have no idea like what the collectible aspect is, but I feel like you could put yourself in positions that you're like, if something is going to be collectible, it's going to be rookie cards, low mints. And so
yeah,
I think that's reasonable. The gameplay, and again, like I really meant what I said before, that like we're not going to learn anything about the game from this first like real game week. But I think, the gameplay, which we can all guess how it's going to play out, but that's going to be the real like short-term price indicator on all the cards. And so we'll get into like why this game is so different than football and baseball. But I don't think I think there's a way they could have made this game like easy to play for casuals. And I don't think they did it.
They did.
They could have. You think they could have made this game what? Sorry, I broke up on you.
I think they could have made the game easier for casuals, and they chose not to. And I'm not sure how they change it without like drastically changing the game.
Agreed. Other than new leagues.
Sorry.
Like a new league or two.
Right. New leagues could maybe.
Thanks for the buzzkill, though, Laird. Good way to start.
Yeah.
If
Well, what
I'm
I was
just saying,
gonna
like,
say is
if you want to work,
commons,
what's that?
commons could be fairly, because even with the way the game moves, even though you need to watch for the points cap and how much form people have got, if you do have like 80 commons, it's not really that much of a juggle. You would think,
Absolutely right. Yeah, I think it's just going to be like it. It's going to be this situation where you're going to want to have a lot of cards, which obviously is like probably what Sorare want, but you're not going to be using them all every week. So you're going to have like a lot of training teams and you're going to be playing matchups. But this like salary cap or whatever, score cap, like I don't think people realize like how drastically some of the averages will change. And so if you think you're going to come in to buy 5 cards and like, I'm going to play this every week, like you're probably not going to be able to play it every week. And which is the opposite of baseball, where you could have bought 7 cards and play them for eternity. And maybe you win some weeks and some weeks you don't. But basketball will require like a lot more cards, even as like a casual, unless you want to, just to submit lineups.
Just to like throw out like a really obvious thing, which is going to make me look like a European fool. Something which I'm like struggling to like get my head around is in like strategy around the game, where like in terms of stacking a team, it doesn't necessarily make sense because some players just don't score well. And then there's like the guys who just score really well. And equally, if LeBron and Doncic are playing each other, I don't even know if that happens based on Western and Eastern. Is it West and East? Is that a thing? Or is it like North and South? Okay, so let's say that's a thing. Okay, cool. So let's say they play each other. It actually, now, albeit whatever, in Champion you get away with one as your MVP and the other one is like another big point guy. You wouldn't get away with this in Contender at all, but it doesn't even necessarily, you could play them both. It's not like football where like, oh, well, I'm not going to pick him because he's playing him, so if he scores, he loses points. It's kind of like, they're both still going to put up like 100 points a team, probably, or whatever. So one of them's, they're probably both going to still score 50 or 60 points in the Sorare matrix. So like just in terms of strategy of like picking players, it's kind of weird. I don't know. It's hard, and you can't use the big guys all at once, and it's always the big guys in the teams that score well. So it's about, I don't see as many, maybe I'm wrong, I haven't looked into it enough. What I'm trying to find is guys with low averages that hit peak scores. But I feel like guys who have low averages will never hit a 70 because that's what Giannis does in his team. That's what LeBron does in his team. He's not just going to come out of nowhere and fucking sink 15 3-pointers. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's a guy in the team that does that, and that guy's going to do it most weeks. So maybe I'm wrong, where in football, a guy who averages a 33 might hit 100 because of a freak week. I don't know if that happens as much in basketball. Maybe it does.
It can towards the end of the season. The end of the season is I've heard John drop the F-bomb a few times, so I'm good to curse. But
am I allowed to? It's Quinny's channel. Surely we F-bomb here.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. I'm just going with it. So it's a complete shit show at the end of the season. I talked with Laird about this, but we can go deeper into it. But the DFS, so Daily Fantasy Sports, NBA people have such a huge advantage at the beginning because to make a team on the DFS side, you have to fill in kind of what you just said, John, like the 33 average football players that randomly will spike. And, a lot of times that's because LeBron's sitting because LeBron's deciding that he needs a rest, or Kawhi Leonard, one of the best players in the NBA, is going to sit 30 times this season. Like that's already set. Like he's not going to play more than about 65% of the games. So if you can all of a sudden dictate from watching in the games that Kawhi sits, who's going to pick up the slack, then all of a sudden you can have these 15, 20 average L10 guys that don't do anything when Kawhi's in, but Kawhi's out, and now all of a sudden they took a bunch of usage. So I think that's going to be where kind of Laird alluded to it. That's not the greatest thing for a casual. The casual doesn't want to go, I see Luke Kennard's usage bumps up when Kawhi Leonard decides to sit. Like that's not a fun stat for just a pure casual to find out.
That's actually deeper than like even I was thinking. Like if you So the points caps are difficult because for contender, like 110 total points is not a lot. And like if they wanted to make bad players valuable, this is how they do it. I'll be honest, I think it's a little confusing that they did 120 cap for one and 110 for another, especially with the 120 including the superstar, like which doesn't count to the cap. Like they should have just made both 120 because that's simple.
Yeah.
But the problem is that if you put together a team of 5 players that come out to exactly 120 and then they all do well, now they're over 120 for the next game week. So you have to buy someone else. And so like that's what I was saying, that like you need a lot of cards because now they score more, they average more, their L10 is higher, and now your 120 team is 138. And now you have to like chop one to get someone else. And you need to do that just to submit a lineup. Like that's, I think, where maybe we're overlooking things that like in football, you can just throw in a shitter and like, at least I have a lineup. And in baseball, it's like, this guy might not play, but I can put him in because it gets me a lineup. But you literally cannot do that in NBA. Like you have to be within the cap. And therefore, if you got 5 cards and you nailed them and they're all great, you're going to need to buy another one just to fit under the cap the next game week.
What stresses me, which maybe shouldn't, and maybe this is the way the game should be, is I feel like I got very excited about it being like, this is really fun to watch. And I sat up the other morning and I was sat there watching the Pelicans versus the someones. Some other
They're a good start.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
The Pelicans are one of the most fun teams in the NBA. So good choice.
It was the one with the big beard guy. Is it James Harden? Is that a guy?
Harden, yeah.
Yeah.
Who's he play for?
It's the Nets.
No,
the Nets.
No, I'm sorry, the Sixers.
Jesus,
Sixers.
Keith, keep up.
Jesus.
So it was the Sixers versus the Pelicans, right? And I was like, this is great because like if you have any of those guys, it's end-to-end stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Giannis gets every single rebound by the looks of it. He gets drives all, I don't know, incredible. And I was like, this is fucking great. And then I thought I'm going to get really stuck into this. Now, the times these games are on here are a little antisocial, which is one thing. But now I'm looking at this and I'm kind of going, maybe I'm wrong. But I look at football and I go, okay, if you were casual at football, I mean, you can probably predict who the guys play. I don't know. You know, like football, there isn't a lot of like random benchings if you stay away from the right players. I don't know. I feel like a casual with data could come in and build a team. With MLB, as if there's so much going on with the aggregate scoring and the 7 players that even if you screw up once, you're going to get away with it. And I've thrown in random MLB teams and I know nothing. And I came 8th in limited pro and won a rare card. I'm like, okay, brilliant. This is a wee lottery ticket. Let's have a bit of exposure and follow it. And now you're kind of getting me a wee bit like, oh no, because I'm looking at basketball and I thought I'll just be able to come in here, hit like X amount of people under the 120 cap, whatever, chuck them in sorted. But are you telling me that like LeBron's going to sit on a bench like 30 times this season and I need to predict those times? And when I don't, or whoever, I'm going to have to find the guy who's picking up the slack to be the guy who is like a 20 average. I don't know. It just sounds like it's going to be complex.
Let me tackle that one. So no, I'm gonna say don't panic on that because normally when they sit, it's like on a back-to-back. And the cool thing that Sorare did, I think, in a lot of ways, they probably predicted that happening. They go, all right, this is best ball. Just whoever their best game of the week is going to count for you. It's not aggregate. Just imagine like.
Let me just cut in. Back-to-back means games on back-to-back days, like literally like Tuesday, Wednesday.
Which happens a lot, or you'll get 3 games in 4 days is the most that they'll put them through. But let's say
and their bodies can hold that. Their bodies can do that.
Well, hence why some of the older guys or the guys that have a ton of usage will rest. But like LeBron normally doesn't until the last few years because he's getting older. But you'll have a few guys that are very injury prone that they will just go. They'll almost even have a planned rest day. Like you'll start seeing trends that you can go, oh, Joel Embiid, this is the 3rd game in 4 nights, and they just flew out to Utah. He might just sit. And that would like make sense. You could see that coming, so to speak. But I think the key there, though, so it's like you had Embiid in that situation, you would have still had 2 games from Embiid. It's not like all of a sudden he sat out the whole week and you didn't know about it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's going to happen much. But the counterpoint to that, John, is if you could predict that Embiid was going to be out, and I don't have the Sixers rotation on me right now, but whoever their backup center is, that's going to start that night, and he normally only plays 12 minutes a game. He puts up 10 Sorare points a game. Well, when Embiid sits, he's going to play 30 to 32 minutes and absolutely destroy. So now you could have somebody that only counted 10 points against your cap, and he scored you 40. So that's going to be where the strategy of Sorare NBA kind of meets with the fandom, is the people that are going to do really well over and over again, I think are going to predict those type of situations to happen and kind of are going to get ahead of it. I'm getting a nod from Laird, so that makes me feel good. I didn't go out on a limb on that one.
Because I think the best ball thing it makes that points cap so hard, because even if someone does have a stinker, what goes on their L10 is the best score from their game week, you know? So
Do we know that?
is that the way?
No.
Is that
No,
the way
it's
it
just
would
their
work?
L10. From what I read, it's just the rolling out, like the way we're
It
calculating
would
it, and
actually be
we've
the
got to
score from the
match
game
up.
week. That makes sense, actually, as I say it.
It's just the rolling 10. So no, the confusing thing though, Quinny, I think where you're going with that is you could have a guy whose L10 is one thing. He could play 3 games before that L10 refreshes for the next game week. And that's where it's a little confusing. It's not just like he dropped 45, now his L10 is going to shoot up. It's like if he did 45, 10, and 20, it still might stay the same. That's where it's going to be difficult. And that's what's tough about it from a predictive standpoint, is that there's going to be all those variants. Laird, I was just thinking about this one. I don't know if you thought about this, but you have a guy that drops like 60 in the first game. You actually kind of want him to get like 2 techs and get ejected in the first like 2 minutes of the next game. So he puts up like a 1.
Yeah.
So you still got your 60. And now he kicks somebody and he gets kicked out. And you're like, fantastic.
Result.
His L10's going down.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to happen enough for us to bank on it, but yes.
There's just pipe dreams for me over here.
See, one thing I did want to ask yourselves about coming into the Sorare NBA is, like, when I first looked at the scoring matrix, for example, and then when you see the scores that the players do get, you know, like in a good match day or whatever, I did find it a wee bit like jarring, because I'm obviously with football 0 to 100, you know, but like even still as a knock around, when you're trying to get under the cap, that's one thing. But then what do you project like good scores looking like across these 5 guys on a regular basis, you know? Like, I think imagining like, oh, you need, I'm just going to throw a random number, you need 300 to get into prizes, you know? I don't know if that's a moving feast all the time, because the things that can qualify for under the 120 cap, I think is going to change so much. That some of these divisions that maybe that will be something, because some of these points, like some of the people I'm looking at, they score like 8 points and they play all the time, like 7 minutes or something, you know?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what my terrible common team scored this week.
I think he just shouted out PJ Tucker right there.
Can I ask something from you guys as well, just for a wee bit of clarity, just for anyone else? Because I get asked this in a few DMs and stuff, and it's just to make sure. So see double doubles and triple doubles. Can you explain the actual basketball versions of this for all the Sorare football converts amongst us?
Do you want to take this one, Keith?
Yeah, go for it, Larry. You got
All
it.
right. So a double-double is getting double digits of 2 different categories. And the categories are points, rebounds, assists, steals, or blocks. So if you have 10 points and 10 rebounds, that's a double-double. And if you have 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists, that's a triple-double. So very different than what we know double-doubles and triple-doubles and triple-triples are in football, for a variety of reasons, not least of which is that you need 10 of each thing instead of just 2 or 3. But that's what they are. I'll be honest, I think the bonus for those is way too low.
Way too low.
Like there are players who average double doubles. So like, I guess they just didn't want to give out bonuses like for every game. Very rarely do players average triple doubles. Like, it's a handful of times in history. It's more recent now, but like and the fact that they are the same bonus point for the 2, maybe you get both. I don't even know if you get a double bonus if you also get a triple double, because theoretically you have a double-double, but that's what they are.
I
Point,
wonder
isn't
though
it?
if they did
That
that
just
scoring layer
seems
just
mad.
because you're already aggregating so many points from the actions. You know, like from the 10 assists, you got 15 extra points. So I'm assuming it's that. But to what you just said, like I think that was a chance to give even more of a bonus. Like, you know, in DraftKings, I want to say a triple double is 4 extra points and a double double is 2, something along those lines. So it definitely felt light. I agree. And I'll tell you, on the counter of the scoring, the thing I think you have to watch out the most for your players is the turnover prone ones. Turnovers are insanely costly. Like Bam Adebayo, who's a really, really good center for the Heat. He had one. I just know this because he was in my common lineup. I'm like, oh, come on, Bam. But he had one game where I think he had like 18 points, 9 rebounds, and a few other things. And you're like, okay, this is a great game. And then he had 5 turnovers. So 10 points right off the top.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, Karl Anthony Towns had 5 also, and I was just like, oh, just seeing a -10 is just brutal.
Oh, so many questions.
That was the best. That was
Game is fun, guys. Fun.
Can you give me quick answers to these ones, right? Can a quadruple double happen?
Yes.
Yes.
What's a 5? Like a
Quintuple double?
Never
I don't
happened.
know if that's ever
never
happened.
happened.
But do you
What
think it was scoring
Russ
it, but is a
Westbrook might have
triple-double
done
and a
it with
double-double separately,
turnovers.
perhaps?
Hmm.
Do you think
What
those
was that,
doubles?
Quinny?
Do you think those double doubles and triple doubles maybe stack the way John's?
That's what I was
thinking about it?
wondering, because
Yeah.
like you
I
can't
would
have a
assume, but it's only
triple-double
one
without a
point.
double-double.
But yeah,
It's only one
it
point,
feels low.
so-
It feels
Yeah.
very low. But the other counter to that, I suppose, is that would just if I assume the best players get the double doubles and triple doubles, and if that figure was 5, it just makes the best better and the worst worse.
That's fair.
That's kind of
makes
what I
that
was
gap
thinking.
bigger. My
Exactly.
last one is, you see, what constitutes a turnover? So like, is a steal when you're trying to dribble past someone and they take the ball, and is a turnover when you get like a pass intercepted or something?
Yep.
Does shooting and missing count as a turnover? What if you airball?
It should, but it doesn't.
Because that could be,
Yes.
because that could be like a missed pass, like an alley-oop. Alley-oop,
Yeah,
that's a
I
term
mean,
I know. There's
there
one
you go.
for you. You like that?
So, John, in answer to your question, there's somebody that's doing the box score that determines if they thought you were shooting the ball or if you were trying to pass. If they think you were trying to pass for an alley-oop, then it would be a turnover. But like, even if I step out of bounds, that's a turnover.
He's out of bounds. You see the
so if
stepping
you
out of
run out-
bounds. Is that if the ball goes out or if your foot goes over the line?
Either or.
Either-
if you're the
yeah.
last person to touch the ball and the ball
Does your
goes out, but to give you a trick, because this is different from football, it's not like an invisible line. It's an invisible line. It's not an invisible line like football. So like you see guys that will jump into the stands if the ball hasn't touched the floor yet, and if they can knock it back in, then that ball's still alive.
so
it
kinda
has
like
to
rugby.
land outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, I know there has to be a European equivalent of
Yeah.
that rule there. I just can't think of what sport it was.
But is a foot on the line out, or do you have to
Yes.
be over the line?
If you have the ball,
Okay.
if you have the ball,
Any touch on the line.
Wow, we're learning so much.
Yeah.
I
Great
learned
questions,
something
John.
today,
Loving it.
actually, that if you pass to somebody off the backboard, it's not an assist.
Ooh.
yeah, so it's an attempted shot, and they would get the rebound.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doncic got pissed about that because he did it yesterday, and they didn't give him an assist for it.
So
Oh, wow.
I wanted to bring one more point before maybe we go into gameplay, because John actually brought this up one rant or 2 rants ago about watching like LeBron versus Luka. So here's an interesting thing. I don't think there's a football equivalent, but these star players in the NBA are very, I'm trying to think of the word. I don't know if the right word's macho, Laird. You could decide, but they are very confident, and there are times in the NBA that the best players from each team just go, it's on. Like Steph Curry is super hot, and he's playing LeBron, and LeBron's like, fuck this. Like Steph is not going to steal the show. We're on national television, and they will just go one-on-one and pretty much tell the rest of their team, just get the hell away. I'm feeling it. Like Steph Curry is, one of the most fun players, because when Steph Curry is like feeling it, like he doesn't think he can miss, he just starts pulling up 40, 45 feet away. The entire crowd, if he's at home, is into it. And he just starts making everything. And it's like so demoralizing for the other team. But I think it is kind of cool. You could actually correlate two stars against each other going, I think this is going to be a big game. It's nationally televised. They're going to go mano a mano, so to speak. But
That's
I mean,
incredible. That's so
like
fun.
LeBron, and I'm sad that I don't know the stat, but there was a playoff game when LeBron played for the Cavaliers. I think he scored 30 of the final 32 points or 31 straight points. Like, and LeBron at that time, the team sucked around him. It was like John
bad.
all of a sudden getting his pickup football team, and he sees Laird and myself as his teammates and going, guys, I got to take this over. But his team, he had no role players. So he just was like, I'm not passing the ball. Everybody just get out of the way, and I'm going to win the game by myself. And he scored like 31 straight.
Yeah.
That's so fun. That's
sorry,
because
I was going to add
go for it.
Jared Jackson, our boy Tuggy, in chat reminded me that offensive fouls are turnovers as well.
Is Jared Jackson Tuggy? I did not know that.
Neither did I. Now we know.
Yeah, that's tough.
Glenn Hoddle here too.
This is a safer space for Tuggy than when I'm on with Sean.
Yeah, he's been getting road recently, hasn't he?
I love Tuggy too. It's completely uncalled for from Sean. So.
What I was gonna say is it's so fun because like we always want like Messi and Ronaldo in like the El Clasicos and whatever always felt like them against each other, but ultimately there's 22 men on that pitch, and it's a really like team sport, and it's a way bigger pitch, and it just takes way longer. Like Messi can't just be like, give me the ball. It's not quite the same. Whereas like seeing like two greats or two MVPs like just going at each other, I mean that'd be fun.
It is. Those games are really fun.
I mean, I can remember one of the most fun games I remember watching within the last probably 8 years, but there was a game Kobe Bryant scored 81 real points.
Nice.
And literally the entire game was that the team knew he was feeling it, and it was like they got the ball down the court, give it to Kobe. All right, let me get out of his way. And so basketball is a lot more of an individual sport in that way. Yeah. Even though it is a team game, you have your alphas. So, like, Quinny just mentioned about, I can't believe the guy could just get 8 points. The guy I work NBA DFS with, we call them corner sitters, meaning they just run to the corner, and they just stand there. And if the whole defense, like LeBron's running down the lane, he could decide to kick him into the corner for a shot. But otherwise, he just kind of stands there, just kind of chills.
Because the first game I watched was actually similar to John. The first game I managed to watch on UK TV was also the Pelicans, but I don't think it was the actual same match as John. And I thought, Pelicans, man, this sounds like a dweeby-ass team. I bet you they're going to be absolutely rubbish. And honestly, man, the first 2 minutes, I was like, wow, this, I think these guys are actually really good at basketball, And they were good. Who's the big guys? Is Zion or something?
He's a freak of nature.
He was a bulldozer.
Absolute freak of nature.
He was a bulldozer, man. He was just going through people, and I was like, man, this team need to change their name because I cannot imagine the Pelican, And again, I've made a joke earlier, but imagine like kicking about Glasgow and you've got a big jumper, like, oh, Pelicans. You know what I mean? Like, you're not getting street cred with that,
Speaking of that, Quinny, imagine Zion going up for a header on a corner.
Oofed. I can fend with style. He's an absolute machine, the guy.
Do you know who I saw last week when I was in Paris? Now, when I say I saw him, I was about 3 meters from him, and he walked past our like little booth. Wambayama or whatever he's called. Yeah. Like, it's like crazy.
Yeah,
he's like John, 7'4" or something.
7'4", yeah.
John, you better save up all your money if you want his number 1 next year. It's going to be the most egregiously priced card. Like,
it might be.
Ever.
I should have got a photo with him, is what you're saying.
Oh, most of the NBA people think that he's probably the best prospect that's come along since LeBron James.
Yeah.
Like, he's that well. And like, nobody knows what to do with him because he's 7'4". He dribbles and moves like he's, these are all big guys, but like 6'6" guys are pretty fluid in the NBA. So he dribbles and shoots like he's 6'6", but he's 7'4". His arms are like down beyond his waist. I think just nothing about him is normal. He's literally gonna break.
He's like a career mode guy that you've just built.
Yeah.
People joked about that. They're like, he's like if all the kids NBA 2K career mode guy actually became to real life, is Wembanyama. So
The
that's wild.
only issue is that his legs are literally toothpicks. Like
But
he's
you know
he's
what's
gonna have to
funny?
put on like a ton of muscle to like compete in the NBA.
The only funny thing, Laird, is like I heard somebody talking about that, and he has not been hurt in his youth career. Like normally these guys like Porzingis and Chet Holmgren, who somebody that we'll talk about when we get to cheat codes. That's a future cheat code, but those guys don't look right. Like Wembanyama is like, oh, what is this?
I mean, he's been playing against like children, so like he's gonna look like that.
I mean, he just dropped like 37 and 16 against G League people.
Yeah,
so wasn't children.
The way you're describing this guy reminds me of like Ronaldinho, like coming through playing with people,
Quinny.
and it's like, oh, this guy's just.
Quinny, you've got to YouTube it after this. It's.
I will for sure.
It's nothing you've ever seen. All right, Quinny, I know you're the host, but I want to get the cheat codes here.
Let's hear it, man. Drop the cheat codes.
Can you not drop them in the messages first?
I've got to say.
Well, no, Laird. John, I apologize.
It's way too late, John.
It's way too late. Okay. So hold on. I'm going to try to figure out how to set this up right. Okay.
I've got it.
So Steph Curry.
You can put a page on Gator. You can share your page if you want, and
I'm not that tech savvy. I'll just do this. And Quinny, if you want to
pull up a page on now, so if you want to tell me, I can do pages. I've got my page
Steph
on.
Curry right now.
Okay.
Steph Curry. This is not the cheat code. Steph Curry Limited.
I've heard of this guy.
You can go get for 0.105 Ethereum. Okay.
What's this? Unlimited?
We all agree Steph Curry's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I've heard of him.
All right.
Are you about to tell me he's not as good as we think he is?
No. It has nothing to do with Steph.
He's better, but just not for Sorare, maybe. But now type in Quinny, Keegan Murray, Keeg. I shouldn't have to spell you Keegan. That's like
no.
But Keegan Murray, and tell the audience what the price is.
So a Keegan Murray limited.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's go limited.
The floor on the market is 0.18, almost double. There's an auction closing not far behind that in the next hour.
And
0.15.
Also, if you want to have some fun and screen share, go to his price graph.
I was gonna say he sold for 0.25 4 hours ago.
Oh wow.
It dropped. That guy got the deal of a lifetime in terms of selling it.
In terms of selling.
Okay. So John looks properly confused, which was what the goal was of this.
Is it because everyone's realized that this guy's going to score similar to Steph Curry, but he's got a zero average?
It's because he's going to score decently in his first game. I don't even have his stats behind me. I have Steph Curry's up because I just wanted to see how asinine that price is compared to like somebody like Steph. But I think he scored like 30 something.
33 and 24.
Oh yeah, 1 point right up at a quarter.
So, but he counts 0 against your cap.
Yeah.
So the cheat code is less about total points. Like he's definitely not going to score as much as Steph Curry, but he literally costs 0. So it's like a free 25 to 35 points in your lineup, which then allows you to play Doncic or Jokic or Giannis easily in contender, because it like you basically are taking the L10 of the superstars and cutting it in half because it's now 2 players that get that.
But is that not just broken? Like that's a bad reflection of the game.
So here's the kicker though. As soon as the game week ends, he's going to have like an L10 of, let's call it 30. And now he's almost unplayable because he costs meaning the points cap of 30, but he's probably only going to score 25 to 30. Like that's not enough. You need people who score more than their L10. And so now people are like paying what Keith and I are considering absurd amounts for a guy who should, like, if he works out really well, he has an L10 of like 35. And you're paying like
doesn't have the ceiling. And doesn't have ceiling. Right. That's the other problem.
Like he's probably never going to score 80 or 7, whatever we don't even know what the ceilings are. But like he's so important for this game week because he costs 0. And next week you almost don't even play him because he costs 30 and you can't play a 30-point guy. Like there are much better players who cost around 30 than Keegan Murray. So that's why you don't buy him right now because the price has already been absurd.
It's already been eaten up. So I was actually, as I said to you guys before we came on, I was trying to channel my inner Nellis, and I thought I'll make some notes before we come on, and we'll be prepared in case in case things go off. So the first one I had was like score matrix chat, and I think we kind of done that, right? And then what you're talking about now, Laird, is kind of another thing I had here. Was I'm kind of wondering coming into basketball, right? Maybe not quite with this points cap stuff and the abuse of the zero on the L10 or whatever, but in the football side of things, we've definitely seen some like interesting, like what I've called a sorare, in my wee notes here, like a sorarism, if you know what I mean, like under 23 keepers and like Lord Vanaken, things that kind of spill out a wee bit into the real world, or the kind of fantasy kind of football element. See with some of the stuff that we're talking about so far, is there any of these things that you think could be one of those touch points where Sorare meets basketball, when it's like a real kind of point where people kind of ignite against it, if you get me, in terms of like fan engagement and just something that's either like engaging or funny, or something that's like, oh, the game does really well at kind of highlighting this aspect of it, like a Vanaken, or that kind of vibe.
I think that really it'll come down to this gameplay feature, that there's going to be anywhere between like 1 and 5 players that a lot of people think you absolutely have to have that game week to win. Like Keegan Murray is this week's. We're not going to have many of these zeros. Like once the season gets underway, we're not going to have them. But you know how like we all look for like the best under 40 guy for specialist, and usually like there are a couple of them. They're usually not even that good, but we're like, we need this guy for our lineup. The NBA game is going to be packed with those every week, meaning we're all going to be looking for those. Like everyone is playing specialist, and I don't know what we're going to.
Every game week's a specialist. Every game week's a specialist. That's what it breaks down to.
Right.
So, like, Quinny, in answer to your question, I think the quote unquote like Sorare cult hero will be, and there are these guys. I think it'll be towards the end of the season. So I'm going to throw you guys for another loop. Because of Wembanyama coming in, a lot of people predict that half the NBA teams come the second half of the season are going to just start telling their best players to not show up, to try to lose,
so they get top draft
for a better chance at Wembanyama.
This is the thing. Like this is
a thing. It's called tanking. We call it tanking. I don't know what
is it legal.
That's so funny.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, the NBA
would say.
to prevent it, they so we do a lottery to help for it. So just because you're the worst team in the NBA doesn't mean that you're guaranteed the number 1 pick. They do a lottery for it.
Okay.
And so like I don't know the new lottery odds. It used to be 25%. I think they even smoothed that out more. So if you're the worst team in the league, I want to say it's like a couple percentage points better than the second worst, and so on and so forth down the line. But teams, just to get a 2% better chance at Wembanyama, are planning to like just tell their guys. Like there's a good example of, and he might come up some point this season, but Al Horford plays for the Celtics now, but he had gotten traded to the Thunder a couple years ago, and they just decided halfway through the season they wanted to lose for a better pick. And so they literally told Al Horford, like, hey, go on vacation. You don't need to come to work anymore. We'll just keep paying you like your $22 million, but you're actually a little too good for this team right now. Just go away. So I think the cult heroes for a little bit are going to be like, if you can find these, one of like Laird's gallery of Villanova guys is Robinson Earl, plays for the Thunder. He's kind of a role player, kind of a little bit good when they get really, really bad. And so like these guys that are on bad teams, that all of a sudden the team gets really bad, and then now they all of a sudden have these huge roles. Like those are going to be some like, so I could totally see there being like a week of just like a Robinson Earl, like you have to have him, like something along those lines. Or maybe we have like another Lynn Sanity. I know that's like near and dear to Laird's heart, the Jeremy Lin thing. But maybe we have something like that where a guy comes out of nowhere and just takes over for like a week. Like stuff like that has happened.
Do you know who I'm going to predict is? The guy, Udonis Haslem. I think people are going to get into him.
I believe Udonis Haslem is the only player in the NBA who is older.
That did not play last year. I think he's one of the only ones that had, I think, almost like all but one game he sat the bench. He's pretty much a coach. He's pretty much a player coach.
Nice.
But he's a legend. Florida Gator.
Yeah.
Florida Gator legend. He was, let's put it this way, he graduated university before I got there.
He could be my dad.
Probably.
He's
If
like
he
a year
had
older
sex
than
at
you.
13
Settle
or
down.
something, which is a bit weird, but yeah.
We're getting a wee bit of shout from the chat, wanting to see some teams and stuff like that. John, you can, anyone can share their screen if they want to, but I've got mine up now. I've got. Do you guys want to help me a wee bit with this? I'm kind of.
Yeah, let's do it. I've got some of my projections up too, so I can try to help.
Right, I've deleted all my teams because I've actually found this quite rickety. Because like in football, you can hit used and you can see all your cards even if you stuck them in training. But with this, if you stick somebody in training, you're not going to see them, and it's a bit of a pain in the bum when you're kind of going from scratch. So I've deleted everything, but I've got an idea of how I can get into this cap, right? But the first problem I've got, right, or my first conundrum is that I try and get that guy Benedict Mathurin into my team.
Oh, he's so good.
And then play Blake Griffin as an 11-pointer alongside him, or do I sack that and just go for like 5?
You dirty bastard, Quinny. You've went up to rare.
Aye. What do you mean?
Oh, I'm being a mug.
What do you
Yeah,
mean?
I'm being a mug.
What do you mean? Did you not get rare cards?
I've went and bought all these MVP fucking limited guys. They should be up at rare.
Mate, you should look at the price of rares.
Oh man, yeah, I know it's made
money
no
left
sense.
from his limits.
Yeah. Sorry, Quinny, I bought it in. I just
No,
seen
don't
I
worry,
was
man.
like, red guy. Oh, anyway, sorry. Yeah.
I tried to get
That's
super quite
awesome.
early, but they were going a bit too pricey, I thought.
So Quinny, what was your
So
what was your
is
lineup
Blake Griffin
decision?
worth playing Mathurin is basically opening gambit from me, number one.
So like almost every decision like this is really a 2v2.
Okay.
So it's not really just can I play Griffin to get Mathurin, and it's like you consider those two versus the two guys that you would have to play if you don't play them.
Okay.
Right.
I think
And my guess is that you'll want the other guys.
I think Sexton, Walker, and Claxton are like the base of this team. They're
I mean, Claxton's doing great. So
they're L10
He
collectively
sticks
at
out.
23 between the three of them.
wow. Okay. What was the third? I heard Sexton, Claxton,
Lonnie
and who was the
Walker.
other?
And Walker.
Lonnie Walker, who
4.
he plays a lot. So that's the
I'm
most.
told
that's
he's
just
the
that's the-
only guy that can shoot on the Lakers. That's what I'm told.
You're probably not wrong, and he's not a very good shooter either. So that just shows you how good the Lakers are right now.
Love these wee random
The Lakers
guys.
are must-see TV right now, though. They're like the most dysfunctional team in the NBA, and it's glorious if you don't like the Lakers.
Yeah, I don't mind them too much, especially if this guy takes all their shots, then that'll be fine. So I think
Well,
that's the kind of
LeBron.
crux. So to answer your question, Gator, that kind of then leaves me with I've got Trey Jones, I've got Marcus Smart, Malik Monk, Benedict Mathurin, and I've got 43 points. So I could get like
I mean, everybody there but Malik Monk for me are awesome plays. But
I could play
Mathurin, I think,
limited.
is
Why I ended up
I was
doing
gonna say
is playing
you
unlimited.
should definitely just play limiteds.
Yeah,
Mathurin's fantastic.
I ended up playing Lowry to keep the cap down as well at one point.
Lowry. So Laird and I thought before Keegan Murray, we thought that Kyle Lowry was going to be one of the cheat codes of the week,
Oh, really? Oh, good.
and he.
Yeah, me too.
I mean,
He's
he's
the first
still
guy
up
in my
there. Like,
lineup, but for a number of reasons.
Nice.
yeah, Nova legend. But I mean, like Kyle Lowry is actually a great example of what we kind of anticipated or were thinking the game would be. Like these really good players. Like Kyle Lowry is an all-star. That's probably like a fringe Hall of Famer when it gets done. Laird will agree with me from bias, but I think it's like close.
Sure.
But he had like a bad stretch at points last year, so his L10 would go back and forth. So getting him at 20, I think the last game before that locked in, he dropped like 40 something. So anytime anytime you're talking about a guy that you can get like you see the ceiling to get 2.5 or 3 points per, if you just want to call it like per L10 dollar.
Sure.
That's what we called it on one of our sheets. But like,
Nice.
just think of the points. I can get 50 for 20 against my cap. That's 2.5 points per, L10.
Yeah.
That's great. Like that's the percentages you want to get at. So anybody like that, like John Collins is another one that's going to be super popular. If you look at his price graph, he kind of peaked too
Great shout.
because he had a horrific playoffs. Like he almost got played off the court, but he's a fantastic player, a fantastic regular season player. So his L10 is way low, and he's, I think, starting out the season just dropping 40s left and right. So
like the Lowry thing, though, like what Keith was saying, like he costs 20, but you could get like 45 out of him.
Yeah, easy.
That's why Keegan Murray's not that great, because after this game week, he's going to cost 30 and will probably score 30.
Or
and
could score worse. 30 might be a great game for him. That might be like his rookies can struggle. That might be his best game for the first week. And so now you're overpaying.
Yeah,
right.
So
it makes sense
a
when
liability on your
you're
projected score then, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the hardest part for Keegan Murray, like I'm, as much as this pains me, I'm actually taking this week off. I'm just stacking. John, I'll make you feel like I'm just working on my studs for when champion stuff comes along.
Nice.
Because like how I did the math this week was that if you aren't going to have a Keegan Murray in your lineup, you're really struggling to get to tier 1 range. And just how much Keegan Murray's costing you to do it, just kind of the math doesn't add up. So it's like, it's okay. Like just shoot for it. But I don't see a leaderboard that doesn't involve Keegan Murray. And like he's a really talented player. He's the 5th pick in the draft. Like that's on top of everything else. He's a super talented guy. But I think that once champion gets back and we have more competitions to spread ownership out, so to speak, I think it's going to get a lot smoother.
That's fair enough. And I think everyone in the chat's kind of agreeing with the whole Lowry is going to rip it this week as well. So that seems to be quite the consensus.
But like right now, you could have Murray that we project for around like 28 points. And then you could have John Collins, who's projected for, let me pull it up real quick. We have John Collins at 40.14 points. So you can get 70 points for 20 against your cap. And now all of a sudden you go, okay, I'm going to put in Embiid, who's also pops on our projections because he's under 40. So you're going to go, I can put Embiid, I can put a Jokic, and still put 2 other good players with them. And that's where, the whole cheat code element of Murray this week kind of pops off.
So then that would leave me with picking another unlimited of Jeremy Sochan, a rookie I picked up, and Derek White.
Yep, from the Spurs.
They're limiteds again also.
Derek White just went off last game versus the Magic. That's my team, is the Magic, and Derek White just destroyed them this weekend. So he starts for the Celtics.
I thought he got injured.
He's only got 1 game in this game week, and that's Sochan.
So thank you. Hold on, that brought up another category.
Yeah.
Because I've seen this on Twitter and everything. Is the multiple game weeks. I think a lot of people are just running to them.
Yeah, I did it with one
guy.
guy.
I think it's a mistake.
I was like, I'll just play him. He's got 3.
I think there's way too much emphasis on multiple games.
Okay.
Absolutely. But I think, so Laird, here's a fun thing to workshop with you. Like when I was thinking about that. It depends player to player though too.
Sure.
Because if I have 3 games for one of those guys that I brought up that, is the backup to a superstar, and they have 3 games that game week, I'm on a Monday and they have 3 games between now and Friday, there's a really strong likelihood the superstar may sit one of those, or they may manage his minutes one of those. So I might have a ceiling game in there. So that's where I think it's like a fun little strategy that you can go, well, this is actually one of the guys that if Embiid sits the 3rd game this week, he could go off.
Yeah.
I think that's a fun one.
Yeah, I think at this point of the season, it's 3 though. Like I think back-to-back games. Like we'll know some of the guys who are coming back. Yeah. Kawhi obviously probably won't play, but I don't know. Like the one that got me to bring up John's Pelicans. So like their 2 best players got hurt last night.
They're both out.
Oh, they are out. All right.
Yeah.
So it's like
Zion they had already mentioned. I'm looking through right now. So. Are we cool giving out like a shout out to a Twitter account that does it better than anybody else for the injuries, Quinny?
Shout out anyone who you want, no problem.
Underdog NBA is from a DFS perspective. If you follow on Twitter, literally, I don't know how the guy that runs it. He used to run it for a different site, but he the second that news comes out, he always knows it and tweets it out. So because I think that today, as we go on the season, is going to be such a huge day to have a little bit of ETH in your wallet, because you're going to get some of these guys. We know that lock is 10 minutes before the first tip. So there's going to be guys that get ruled out at 6:30 our time. So past your bedtime over in the UK, but guys that just before tip, and this happens all the time in the NBA. Like I showed Laird from our DFS chat the first game, like we were waiting on a guy named Cole Anthony from the Magic, and he gets ruled out 15 minutes before tip. On the first game of the season, he had a tummy ache, I believe is what it was. And all of a sudden that changed everything though, right? There's, a guy, his backup was going to get the start. There's the playmaker all of a sudden has more usage and was more expected to go off. Like stuff like that's going to happen on Monday. So, like with the Pelicans news, like there's a guy named Trey Murphy that if Ingram, I'm scrolling through later. I might have misspoke. I don't see Ingram out yet.
Yeah,
there's a guy named Trey Murphy that he's an absolute stud, but he's a backup. I don't even know what his L10 is. Does anybody have that handy?
No, sorry.
It's okay. I'm looking up too. But Trey Murphy would go off if he were to miss. And Trey Murphy's L10 is 16.
Trey Murphy the third?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I think he even had like a pretty decent game last night because Ingram, I think, got subbed out for like concussion protocol. So be shocked if he plays.
So this guy's only rocking a 16. That's a decent shout.
Yeah. But we're going to have random guys like that all weekend. We're preparing for the game week. We have no idea. And then somebody gets hurt on a Sunday. They get rolled out on a Monday at 5 o'clock. And, that could be a really good advantage for those people that are paying attention.
For sure.
Yeah, there's a gigantic advantage there.
But yeah, both questionable 2 hours ago, Zion and Brandon Ingram.
Yeah.
And another starter, a third starter in their lineup, Herb Jones, is also questionable. So they might just not play a team. Not play their starters.
Who is the whipping boys? Who do you want a fixture against?
Charlotte right now.
Charlotte, really?
Charlotte plays no defense.
What different there? Shout out Danny Brahms.
That's right.
What does it say?
Although I'm pretty sure he hates the Hornets.
I was going to say,
for some reason.
When I spoke to him, he was a fan. What about Celtics versus Bulls? With Celtic, so Blake Griffin, is he worth a shot for 11 points? Gatorguy.
I'm not sure.
Let me look at his minutes. He's their backup big. Blake Griffin was like one of the
he's
best.
Going to get more and more minutes. That's the way I was looking at him. If he was a footballer.
Blake Griffin 5 years ago was like a top 15 NBA player, but he was all athleticism and he lost his legs, and he was never a very good shooter. So now he can't leap like he used to. He can't shoot the ball that well. So he's still talented, but he's just kind of like in between. Like last game with their starting center out, Blake Griffin played 9 minutes, scored 0 points, grabbed 0 rebounds, had 1 assist. So I'm going to go ahead and say no, Quinny.
Cool. That's fine by me, buddy.
I would rather have somebody, that, and that's the other thing too. I'll just throw that out there. It's like minutes played. It's like one of the most important things to me. Yeah. Even if a guy tears it up, if he's only playing 12 minutes a game, just like how sustainable is that week over week versus a guy that's going to, play 28 minutes, just more opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same in football. You just want guys that play the most number of minutes.
Yeah. So like on football, Laird, you'll get a joke out of that. You guys will all laugh. I remember one week, Sean was PSU fans was talking about the player. He's like, this guy's really good. Now he never starts, but he always comes on at halftime. And I'm like, no, I want nothing to do with that. What are you talking about? And the funniest thing is like immediately the guy scores 2 goals in the second half, and I had to like eat my words. But I'm just like, for me, I'm like, I can't live that life. I'm gonna be tilting for the first hour that he didn't start. So like, it's the same thing at NBA. Like you definitely want to lock in the guys that are going to play a good amount of minutes to at least give you the opportunity at points.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nice. Everyone,
do you have your limited teams yet?
What's that?
Did you do your limited team?
So I'm still undecided. So we don't think Blake Griffin's worth for 11 points. So I think that maybe throws a wee spanner in my works, because I was looking at him like a football player rather than a basketball player. For me personally, but I've got that guy in Lowry who we fancy for 20 points, and then you fancy that boy White as well, and
Derek White. Yeah, Derek White's fine.
So Nets have got 3 games. Do the Nets look good for their 3 games? And I've got 23 points left.
Again, like the weird thing at NBA is it's not like football where you're really looking at matchups.
Okay.
Like guys are pretty matchup proof.
Why would guys be inactive? They just don't have a game.
Or they're injured.
They're injured, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They have like a designated injury list, and it's usually that.
I'm desperately trying to get this my food.
Where are we at, John, with your lineup?
We can do
So I have.
Can you make one?
you can do a share screen if you want.
I can make one. Let me see. Will this let me share my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't like in a joke, but like you went out of your way to like get stars, and we can't play stars yet, which I think is
As easily.
Can you see
disappointing.
this
There
screen,
we go.
Quinny?
I've got it. 2 seconds,
can
and
see, yeah.
it is on screen now, John. Just 2 seconds to fix it.
So,
it looks
like-
nice.
I have a bunch of bums that I can probably fill out
Good.
with. But so I can definitely put a team in. But whether that team has a chance or not is a different question. So I have to pick between like Giannis, Ja Morant, LeBron, and Steph as like my main guy. And I thought Ja Morant has 54 points as his average, but he's got 2 games. And as you said, it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
But like I think I'd rather have 54 with 2 games than Giannis with 1 game.
Well, the other problem, John, is like this works really well for champion, but with them not having champion open, you almost want to look anybody that's 50 or over is kind of killing you. It leaves you no cap left. So can you scroll down to like your next tier guys? I can see Steph Curry as your last.
Oh no,
Unless
like
you-
they go bad.
They go bad really quick.
Unless you overpay for Keegan Murray, who costs 0. Like that,
Yeah.
This is exactly why you buy somebody like Murray.
So it's like down to like the guys you see in my team and Cody
Yeah.
Martin and Jalen Williams.
I mean,
They're the ones
Sochan
that-
plays. I don't think is Moses Brown backing up Embiid right now. I had a Sixer fan on our DFS site that message that he thinks that Embiid's going to sit at least one time this week. So I'm just looking up, which would make sense. Embiid's the type of guy that does. I'm looking up real quick if Moses Brown is his backup.
The only reason I have Moses Brown
He's
is
not.
because this 9 is like
Jersey.
colored in.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna get that.
Unfortunately,
I don't
I don't even see that he dressed for the Sixers last game.
Okay.
Oh no, it's the Clippers. It's the Clippers.
Clippers.
Jeez, I okay. Let me go look. I don't think he plays up for them either. I think Covington's their backup.
So like I'm somewhat treating this like MLB where it's like a lottery, but I
Yeah.
think with champion maybe I can actually compete in the lottery a little better. But like here I feel like I'm way off the mark. But like, oh well, at least they'll get XP.
He Moses Brown last night in a blowout checked in for the final 2 minutes of the game and
Oh,
scored 2 points.
Go on, Moses.
His per minute stats are absurd, though.
It's great. It's great.
I'm not sure Jack White plays either.
I mean, I think that most of
No.
those don't.
But I mean, like, it's Jack White or I ditch. No, yeah, it's I just don't have a team. So like, this is what I'm stuck with. I think is kind of the reality of the situation. So, yeah, submit.
I don't know
Oh!
why. I don't know why
Sorry.
they did it this way.
In
Like,
Can
in
I show
terms
you
of not
something?
opening champion. Like those are the cards that everyone bought early, and then they were like, "Oh, you can't use those yet."
I know it's a bit stupid. Why wouldn't you just open them both? I
Right.
came 102nd with a DMP of 73,000 training teams.
Oh wow. Congratulations.
So these boys are racking up XP.
We're cooking with fire there.
Get XP
like
like
that.
John.
Yeah, look at that. Look at this. Up to 5.5. Up to 5.5 already on LeBron. Why don't they have they don't have the breakdown of your XP like they do on football?
It's just that like bar until the next level.
Is it?
I gotta share funny. I had Trey Murphy's player page up. I think some people might be listening to the chat. I just saw like 6 of them sell in the last 2 minutes. That's gonna be like I'm gonna get some hate DMs now. But when Ingram plays, but I do think that's gonna be like really interesting on lineup lock. Is that like you think you're all set, and like 30 minutes beforehand, and Embiid sits, and just shit hits the fan.
but
Kind of fun.
But it doesn't really hit the like. So that's the other funny thing is that this exercise happens every day, but obviously we only have 2 deadlines per week. So it's like there are going to
Right.
be instances where
2 bad days, 2 days that you want to make sure that you have ETH in your wallet and that you're looking. I mean, let's just say this, because I feel like there's some negativity on this. Like, I don't think it's negativity on the platform. I think it's actually awesome that's strategic, because let's just talk about the counter. Okay. The counter of this was no cap. And John, not to like use you as a bad example, but
Hey.
John goes out, he buys Jokic, he buys Giannis, he buys Steph Curry, he buys LeBron James, and why am I blanking? Give me a fifth, like
Ja
stud.
Morant.
Ja Morant. And I go, let's just say I don't have the wallet, and I'm like, how the hell can I compete with that?
Yeah, no, you're right. There should be a cap, 100%.
So I mean, the counter, we're talking about like there's some things broken, but the counter is being very broken.
I think once Champion opens, people are going to realize it's
Much
really
better.
tough to play like Giannis and Steph. Not
But
impossible.
Laird, let's mention this though. It also, because of that, having a Giannis, to me, the top tier is Giannis, Jokic, Doncic, and then the tier drops off a little bit to like the Ja Morant and B tier. But if you don't have like one of those like 6 to 7 top guys, I don't think week to week you're actually competing in Champion. Like, you have to have one of the top guys.
I
I got Laird.
I honestly, like, the only reason why I don't think it's that clear cut is because we get the best game of a game week.
That's fair.
Like,
Because like
Giannis is
Fair,
more
fair.
likely to get to 70, but if I have, like, he obviously has 2 chances to get to 70, but if he scores 65 and 70, and I have Damian Lillard who scores 48 and 70, he's even with Giannis.
that's fair.
Like, I don't need both games to be great. I just need one.
I mean, yeah, I guess the good. I'm just looking at the leaderboard from last weekend, like just the top players. Ja Morant was top 74, Doncic 66, Embiid 66, Siakam, who's a really good player but just not on that tier, also 66. Valanciunas, who's definitely a tier down, 62. So to your point, Laird, but like you're also playing with fire, so to speak, because Luka is going to do that every single week. Siakam's 66 is only coming up once every few weeks.
But your other 4 players are worse than mine. Maybe.
Well, no, because he counted for 0 in Champion. Jokic cost me nothing.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That's why Champion, you have to have like some form of a star. Maybe it's too harsh to say it has to be a top 3 guy. Maybe it can just be a top 20 guy that has ceiling. But because, Jokic or LeBron or Doncic are costing me nothing in that spot, it's a big deal.
Yeah. I think there are enough people who will blow it. Like, I don't think LeBron is ever the play.
No. But he could be
Why?
a second tier.
Because he's never going to be realistically
That-
on the level of Giannis or Doncic or Jokic. Like, he's awesome, don't get me wrong. But like,
He might have
playing
an
him
FU
in the
game.
free spot seems like a mistake.
I think when they release Westbrook, LeBron will have a celebration game.
It's one game though. Like, and then he'll have to rest.
I only need one. Yes, I'll have to rest. But at least I best balled him that day in my MVP spot.
Just want to bring sorry guys, I just want to bring the chat into this, because when you were going through
please.
John's teams and stuff earlier on, a lot of guys were shouting for Moses Brown on the Clippers. Jack White won't play, put Jalen Williams in, was a lot of the stuff that was coming through to us. And there was a great chat actually from Hrovje Kolarich. Thanks for joining us, buddy, for a guy that's getting L10 as 0. A nice little rookie card. It should pick up between 15 and 20 points, he reckons. So good to see.
The Nuggets guy. I don't know his name. The Nuggets guy, right?
Christian Brown.
And Alex was asking thoughts on full team stack. I think we've kind of touched it. It's kind of like super.
No need.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of
That
those
would
ones.
be suboptimal to do full team.
So, but on stacking, and this is to go back to something that John brought up. I think team stacking is bad, but game stacking could work.
That's good.
Like if
you
you
get
have
triple overtime.
Right. If there's a game that goes into, like they play infinite overtimes until there's a winner.
Sure.
So if you have 2 guys from the same team that, and I was talking about this with someone else, like you can't predict overtime. So like,
Yeah.
You're not like, oh, this game could go into triple over. Like they all can go. But like if you have
And it's
2
an extra
guys
5
from a game
minutes.
that has a ton of points, like having one guy from each team makes more sense than 2 guys from one team.
Right. And it's an extra 5 minutes is overtime. Each overtime session is 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But there was like, I can remember an NBA slate like a couple years back that I think it was the Bulls and somebody else did either 4 or 5 overtimes. And like, if you didn't have guys in that game, you're just like, well, they just played an extra 25 minutes over everybody else. And then a lot of times it's the top players just play the overtimes.
Right.
We had another one as well from Sorare Accountant asking why injured players haven't been minted yet. And that was, I noticed one guy on the list I got has a picture, but there's no cards in sight, and it is because he's injured. Everyone keeps telling me.
Is that Chet Holmgren?
No, I'll let you guess again. But
okay. He would be the next cheat code if he were to come back.
Chat's me in. I've already asked about him, so you'll probably remember if you give it a minute or two. But yeah, in terms of injured players, I actually seen this to you earlier on, Gatorguy. I didn't realize that basketball players did get injured. You know, they do actually become injured sometimes and don't play basketball. I was really surprised to hear that. But guys that aren't, so how detrimental is it in basketball for guys that are injured now coming through this season? Will it kind of hinder their chances to kind of break into a team and that kind of stuff the same way as in football, or is it not even considered in that kind of game rhythm?
No, I mean, if you're a good player, I mean, finances matter a lot. Like if you have a big contract,
you're playing
with the team, and all the NBA contracts are guaranteed. So, you know, you're going to get your shot. Like the most injured guy in the NBA is Anthony Davis of the Lakers. The comical thing on Anthony Davis is that every 2 games he gets like a hangnail and he has to come out. But the guy gets injured. I mean,
all the time,
an insane amount. He got injured the first night too. It was just like 20 minutes into the game, and everybody in different chats are just laughing. Like it's bad, but he came back. But just because it's predictable. But like Anthony Davis, the moment he's healthy, he just walks in the starting lineup. He's, you know, a top 20 guy in the NBA. So, you know, the guys that are super good, it's not like all of a sudden a fitness issue. The second that they could even try to play, the coach is going to put them in.
Yeah. To follow up on the Davis thing, he was streaming himself playing NBA, whatever it's called now, 2K or whatever the game is. And he was using himself, and he got hurt in the game that he was playing. Like, that's how much he gets hurt. That, like, video games are like, it's
and his face was just like,
yeah.
I've went back to the team that I started off with, so I'm just going to put this out there so I can move away from it, right? But I'm putting Blake Griffin back in, right? Because I want to play this Mathur and Rare. I'm determined to play it. And he's telling me Lowry's good for it, and I think Sexton and Walker are good for it. So I'm chancing my arm on Griffin doing better than 11 is what I'm hoping for. And I'm going to live or die on that one for game week 2. Well, limited, I'll just put it out there just so I can do it and put it away. But I'm putting the boy Derek White in, who you're telling me is on form and kicking ass at the moment. I've got a limited Lonnie Walker as well. Me and John have got the same guy, Sochan, the guy with the pink hair. So I'll be rocking him out as well. Boom. It's going to be his game week. I can feel it. I've got a Sexton and then a Trey Jones, who everyone, including you, Gatorguy, was telling me.
Love Trey Jones.
I did amazing to get a Trey Jones, so we'll get him out this week as well. Is that team, does that look okay?
Yeah.
I love it, Quinny. I think it looks incredible.
We're getting some rewards.
I mean, we're in.
That's it.
I think, again, if there's like a lack of excitement for my little screen here, it's just because the first week, the top of the leaderboard, because like as we've kind of like rolled out with a couple of the zero players with a couple of the guys whose L10s are just so far beneath what they're likely going to do. I hope everybody just gives it a little bit of time, because I think the first week, especially with the L10s going back to the playoffs where some guys fall out of the rotation, is going to make this look worse than it's going to be by the end of the season.
Sure.
But I think Laird kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. I think the one thing, if I had like a detraction on the product, is that there is not going to be a set it and forget it lineup. Like, you can't go buy a Celtic stack and just run it out every single week. And if all 5 play, great. If not, whatever. And, you know, expect to pick up rewards. It's not going to work. You're going to have to be active on the platform. So I think that's the only thing they need to like kind of look into, is that I think there's a lot of people like that I've even introduced to it that are just like, this just might be a little bit too much time.
Just for clarity to the audience, would you say the main reason for that is the fact that playing all 5 just wouldn't get a good enough score to actually hit the board? That's the reason, isn't it? Rather than it's not. It
could fit one week and be awesome, and then you go to click it next week and it says error.
So really, because of
too
the
many points.
Because I've had people say to me before, there's no point doing it because all 5 guys in a team don't really bang.
That too.
Yeah, well, that
That's
too.
what I thought, sorry.
Because there's only one ball.
Yeah.
I mean, and ultimately, there's only a limited amount of points the teams are going to score. But that's the problem is that it could work great one week, and then you just, at no fault of your own, other than your players did too well.
Right.
They did too well, and now you can't play them. So that's kind of like counterintuitive.
Yeah. Quinny, can you pull your team back up again? Because I did see one like glaring error that I would be remiss
please
to let this go.
Yeah,
Let's see.
this one or the rare team.
I forget which one it was. The one with with Jones in it. That was the limited one, right?
Yeah, the one with Jones is limited. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had 2 guys from the Spurs.
Yes.
Is that right?
Sochan and Trey Jones.
Yeah, I would highly recommend putting them next to each other in the lineup.
Oh, of course. Okay, I can do that. No problem, Laird.
That's something that really just bugs me that people do. It drives me nuts that Sorare moves the captain in football, and now my teammates are not next to each other. That it's good for the team.
I agree.
You want that kind of camaraderie. Like you don't want to. Those are intangibles that you don't want to leave on the table. There.
No, I agree.
What is it in football Ultimate Team? Is that chemistry?
That's it.
We need the chemistry lines to add up.
Yeah,
loving it. Much better.
I've never seen that. I've never noticed that once in my life, and now it's going to dominate my thoughts every single week.
You're going to make better lineups because of it. Yeah. Trust me.
John's like, I don't know football, and he says, I got to swap the extra. Like the way I save the screen no longer works.
I hate it. Sometimes it does my nothing.
There we go. All right. See, now we're looking good. I do want to touch on something Alex brought up in the chat, saying it seems like we're going to move in and out of players more than holding them all season. Would you agree? Like, that's definitely the case. I also think based on what we've seen going into this game week, and I don't think it's going to be quite as drastic, but there are going to be like tremendous trading opportunities. And like you can right now in football, like if you can spot the under 40 guys with good matchups the next week that people are going to want to pay for, particularly like right at the deadline, like you can make a pretty good profit doing that. That is really going to be the case with NBA. So if you can like figure out guys who are going to get more playing time in the next game week or are going to pop off with low L10s, and those guys don't stay hidden that long. So like if you all of a sudden it takes like one person to be like, hey, this guy's going to be good. And then they go into a Discord and then everybody starts to buy up.
Yep.
If you can beat that rush, I think there's really, really good trading opportunities in NBA.
Fantastic.
I just wait for Keith to tell me who they are.
We've already seen it in game week 1 here, haven't we? That guy Murray you're on about.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
Laird experimented last night. I joked with him. Did you sell all of them?
I have one left that I actually might use in the lineup.
Okay. So Laird bought up. Am I okay to say it?
Yeah, sure.
Like he goes like messages me last night like with a screen that he's bid on all these Grant Williams, who's just a Celtics guy,
Right.
Quinny, and he's just a role player. He's just a guy.
No, he's not a guy. He's the guy who doesn't let Blake Griffin play.
This is true. He's pretty good, but his L10 is low, so he's definitely one of the trendy picks. And Laird's like, I'm gonna flip him. And I'm like, I hope that I don't need to pump him for you to get off all these cards when we come on. And happy to say he's gotten rid of most of them. And you've made, how much have you profited? About $25?
Keith is being very generous with what I said here. I way overpaid for one and bid on a bunch overnight auctions, and I won the auctions. And I was like, oh shit, now I have all these cards. And I happen to have sold 2 of them, thankfully. But I think I'm playing the other one, so it's still on the market, but
I won't full pump it. He's a solid play.
What's that?
His rare is trebled in price. Like 3 days ago, he was auctioning
because
for
he
0.04,
fits.
and then he's just under 0.2.
So I know we're getting on in time. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, like he is. I'm trying to see what his scores were the last 2. Like he has an L10 of 12, and his last 2 scores were 27 and 32.
That's when you.
And so like that's the type of player you want.
Right. And
so I was like, oh, everybody's going to want them. And then I ended up, it was one of those that I was like, I got them really cheap. And I was like, oh shit, I already have one. That's like 1.5x this price. Now the price is tanking. But on that, like Keith and I are joking about it to each other because we don't have a Keegan Murray card, but the price drop tomorrow or in 4 hours, like I think it's going to be like significant because he's just not like he's going from a cheat code to an almost unplayable card. And so everyone is going to be like, oh, I don't want this anymore. And it's like, okay, well, how much do you really not want this card anymore? And it's just going to be like price undercut.
With no buyers on the other side, like undercutting without people like even making offers for the guy.
Yeah, just killing the floor on it.
Right. So if you love him, if you think he's going to be great, you're going to have some awesome buying opportunities very, very soon.
Yeah. And we see that in football on the specialist L40 guys, where as soon as they're not L4 or I'm sorry, under 40,
yeah.
That they're like not valuable anymore. It's just a race to the floor at like, I don't know what time it is over UK, but for us it's 6:01 a.m. Like if you want to like get off your card, start trying to list them, but you don't have buyers. I think, one thing I wanted to say on here, I know we're winding down, but I think you've got to be like very careful if you see these opportunities on guys that you want to play of evaluating that risk versus what they're going to be priced at. Like, I don't want to see anybody out there just getting jaded on the product because they paid 300 quid for Keegan Murray and literally the guy hasn't even played the game, but the game we locked and he's down to 100. Like, I kind of want to be like, well, that was known. Like the rush on the player happened for a specific game week and he's going to fall off and you need to make that evaluation. I think my team's good enough this game week to compete for a top quality card. So I'll take the risk. I know people that have done that and they go, I know he's going to fall off, but I've got a killer team and I'm just Keegan Murray away and I think I can compete. And they're like, I'm willing to take a little bit of the loss on the back end. So I do think that that's like, it needs to be known in the NBA that it's going to see that. And if you see, what do we call it? What do we call it on the Sorare data graph layer? The middle finger chart.
Yeah.
If you see the middle, if you just see the straight up type of guy.
Well, I've got one on screen now with a guy called Nick Richards. His
okay, so Quinny, I was going to say I'll give a special bonus for my guy Alex Hooper's projections. Nick Richards. Hold on, let me get back to what I exited out. Oh my gosh! But Nick Richards is our number one, not including Keegan Murray, is our number one point per dollar because his L10 is 6, and we have him projected at 23.
Nice.
And there's another guy, Dennis Smith. If you want to pull up another middle finger graph, Dennis Smith Jr. should be on there.
Well, they're not middle fingers yet. That's the point.
They're going to be. Okay, sorry. But if you see the trend up, just know the ring finger's coming.
Yeah.
On the back end. And I personally, just as somebody that like cares a ton about Sorare, makes content for it, just lives and breathes it. I don't want people to get all pissed off about what's happening. Yeah, it's like, I wouldn't even feel like, unfortunately, I don't really feel sympathy because it's like, it's known. Like it's gonna, like we're here to tell you, like, just know what you're getting into. It's like a Nick Richards. Let me see who else is on my.
I felt I overpaid for a few cards right at the beginning, and then I kept going, and then I feel my kind of, to use one of your terms, dollar cost average for my gallery, I think it's actually quite good now. Like I feel that I only made maybe 1 or 2 overpays. Like I paid 0.14 for a Marcus Smart limited, and then later got his rare for half of that.
That's wild.
For example, so I seen stuff like that, and I was like, "Shit!" I just kind of thought, well, if I go get his rare, then I've got the rare and the limited for 0.2, and then I can sleep at night.
Nick,
so just
Nick
an
Richards.
update.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Just an important update. My Trey Murphy pump is alive. Brandon Ingram just rolled out.
All right, there we go.
Trey Murphy pump. Let's pump it.
Since this is a safe zone for Tuggy, Tugford bought Nick Richards for 0.0429 11 hours ago. 0429, and the one just sold 6 minutes ago for 0.0746.
And is that rare? Or
limited?
Jesus Christ, Nick
so it almost doubled.
I see. I'm just like, this is the stuff that's just crazy about this first week. Is like, isn't that what you paid for Lillard?
07?
You paid like 0.04. No, you paid like 0.04 something, and now we're paying that for Nick Richards.
Yeah, I paid 0.049. Yeah,
right.
0.05.
So Nick Richardson, Dame Lillard.
Right. And one of them will probably still be that price tomorrow. And the other one is not named Dame Lillard.
I think, but it's opportunity cost. A lot of people look at it as the first couple of game weeks because, like, really, like, you know, you could really sneak out. If you pulled out a juicy tier 1 in the first couple of weeks right quick, it really does propel you. No matter how big your gallery is, it's such a huge, easy win to potentially get. If it is, just go and get one of these guys, Van Elves, till 10 or 0 or 6 or something, you know?
Yeah, I think it's just really important to remember that, like, if you got that Keegan Murray and you played him at 0 today, like, you're not playing him for 0 ever again.
Yeah.
Ever.
It's a one-time play.
Right.
Magic.
And so you have to decide how much I'm going to win with him this game week versus if I paid 0.05 for him and he's going for 0.15, is that banking that 0.1 ETH? Is that more, or do I want the sweat? We're all here to play a game, so do I want the sweat?
Yeah.
John, this is like the silence I've heard you in all my years of listening to you.
Oh yeah, like
are we deep in thoughts?
You're deep into this stuff.
Me and John are here for a session to
lineups for
get
tomorrow.
clued up. This is an R chart I've been asked to bring up. It's a Christian Braun, the Nuggets guy we mentioned earlier. His
That's the
chart's
one.
Middle fingerish, you know, as well.
That's the 0, and he'll be not 0
ever again
tomorrow, and be like 0.002 tomorrow.
Like, tomorrow he should be like 21.
Yeah, which
In
is
fact,
way
that's
too much.
exactly
You would
right.
never, and that's probably his ceiling.
Right.
Nice. Oh, man. Well, we've got just about 2 hours to the game week, guys. I definitely feel better prepared going into this game week. I don't know about you, John. Do you feel better prepared?
I don't think
all his cards.
Yeah, fucking hell. I don't think I had many decisions to make. You know, I think next week it'll be more fun whenever Champions open a couple of my guys. I think the thing that's like overwhelming-ish about the NBA is that I know that I'm personally, because of the amount of time I put into football, I know I'm never going to put in the level of time that all these NBA nerds do. So, like, my edge is football. So I should not necessarily that it's an edge either, because I'm not particularly good at it. But, like, I should just, like, I know that I'm not going to be able to hang with that if you're saying genuinely that if you don't have Murray this week, you're fucked. It's kind of like, oh, well, then
for tier ones.
Yeah, it's like, what am I even bothering my arse
Right.
for then? Do you know? Now, maybe that changes over the season. I bought the cards now. I'll play them in. But it's kind of like, I'm not picking up a second sport to the level of picked up football.
Right.
I'm happy to have a passive interest in something and follow a game week. And if we sweat of a Sunday, tune in and watch a game, of course. But like, if it's one of these where it's like the way the game's built with the cap, that it's like underdog every week where the best scout wins. Yep. Oh man, I don't think I have that in me. I barely do it with football.
And I mean, that's kind of what we've talked about. That's like the element that's really awesome about NBA is for people that want to do the work, it's there. And the part that stinks is that if you don't want to do the work,
there's like no point.
I think we're going to get so many divisions, but because we're not going to get regions the way we do in football, you know, and they've got to have, you know, like a much better way of, you know, they must have like horizontals, you know, that we can play rares across, not just rare contender and that's the end date, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hopeful that maybe we get like a no holds barred division where John can go in with all his heavy hitters and
just uncapped.
Yeah.
Just the superstar division, the whale division.
Give us an NBA football hybrid special weekly.
Yeah. I mean,
for one off.
You've been calling that for like months.
Maybe it's a bit mad and pointless. I don't know. I think it'd be fun though.
I mean, how fun would that be to put Giannis with Danny Parejo?
Oh, now you're speaking my language.
And lasagna.
and Ronald Acuna and some coleslaw. And we're done.
Oh, baby.
I'm
getting a little
baby. Magic. Everyone who's watched this, I hope you've had good fun. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, retweet. The links to everyone who's been on this stream, by the way, if you go into the description, you'll find their YouTubes and their Twitters and all that good stuff. And you heard John saying he'll be back next week to do all this again. We just need to make sure we can get Laird and Gator on as well. And I'm joking. But anyway, thanks everyone.
We're crushing dreams over here.
That's it. Game week 2. Let's get stuck into it. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah. See you.
Good luck, guys.